guys, welcome back. Now today I'm going to show you a quick video on how to replace the button on your Bitsetter. Now the reason why I have to replace it is because I ran a tool into it recently during a spoil board flattening file operation. When you operate a CNC machine, it's not uncommon to smash tools into work pieces, work holding devices, and in my case the Bitsetter. Now I don't feel too bad about this mistake, as I've recently found out this happens to quite a few CNC operators out there. My machine is a Shapeoko Pro from Carbide 3D, and Carbide 3D was kind enough to send me a replacement button. So I'm going to show you how to replace it in case this happens to you. It's a really simple operation, and the only tools required are these two Allen wrenches and a little bit of patience. So please follow along, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section. Oh yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now let's get started. Alright, so first things first, before we do anything at all, we want to make sure the machine is completely turned off. I also unplugged it for extra measure. The first step is to remove these two screws here with the larger Allen wrench. Once you remove the Bitsetter from the frame, the next step of the operation is to remove these three small screws located here. Use the smaller Allen wrench. The three screws hold the mounting plate of the Bitsetter housing. It also protects the button and the proximity sensor inside. I don't think you can see this very clearly, so I'm going to adjust the camera to get a closer view for you. The button mechanism is essentially four parts. The button, which contains threads at its smaller end, a spring, a capture nut, and a brass sleeve. I'll remove the replacement parts and show you what they look like individually. First up is the brass sleeve. Next is the button. Here are the threads. Sorry, that's a bit out of focus. The spring. And finally, the capture nut. To remove the button, all you need to do is take your thumb and press it against the flat spot of the capture nut and unscrew the button from the capture nut. If it's too tight for you, you can use the flathead screwdriver or the flat part of your Allen wrench to hold it in place. Just be sure not to damage the proximity sensor inside the housing. All things considered, you can reuse all the internal parts like the spring, the capture nut, and brass sleeve, but I'm going to go ahead and replace everything with the new parts and hold on to these older parts as a backup. Now it's time to install the new parts. First, slide the brass sleeve into the housing and make sure it's seated all the way in. Next, place the spring on the tail end of the button and insert it through the brass sleeve into the housing. Next, insert the capture nut inside the housing, and here's where patience comes into play. Use the Allen wrench to position the nut in a way that will allow you to get the button lined up so you can get a couple of the threads to grab. What I did here was use the Allen wrench to line up the capture nut. Once lined up, I pushed the button in until the capture nut was pinned against the proximity sensor. I gave the button a quick turn and it started to thread into the nut. All you have to do now is use your thumb to hold the flat spot of the capture nut and screw the button until it fully seats. Now it's time to reattach the mounting plate back onto the housing. When you reassemble the mounting plate, just make sure the screws are nice and tight. You don't need to crank down on them. You're not working on a small block Chevy over here. So there you have it. Good as new. I hope you found this information helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. I'm happy to help. Thanks again for tuning in, and see you next time on East Wing Woodworking.